Nice.
SN1 stuff.
Yeah, SN1 baby. It's funny how we can laugh about it until they come around the corner and then they say, what's up? Yeah, man. All right, let's get cracking. Hi there, my name's Nathan, and this is Welcome to the Human Experience. And today I'm joined by my long-term friend from back in the day, childhood friend, Neil. Neil is, well, to me, obviously growing up we were just friends, but then later on I got to understand that for you, your passion for drawing, you took to a whole new level and you went on to study at
Norwich School of Art.
School of Art, and then after that did you do your...
Did my Masters at the Royal College of Art after that in London.
Oh wow, amazing. So yeah, I actually obviously lost a bit of touch with you while you was at uni and stuff like that when we was a bit older, but I just happened to come across a few of your pictures. One was in Gateway in Leicester, yeah. And imagine I'm on this double-decker bus and I'm looking down into this classroom, which I didn't know what it was because I didn't go to that college, and I see, to me, obviously I recognise as your dad on this canvas.
Oh wow, yeah, okay.
Yeah, the face of your dad. So do you remember that particular project?
Oh my God, I didn't know you were going to start there. Hold on. Let me just dive. My dad. I painted my dad.
Yeah, but it was almost like a bit of a... There was other pictures making it up. It wasn't just a portrait.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, actually, I do remember painting my dad, actually, so yeah, it makes sense. I don't remember the specific pictures. Also, it must have been quite big, I guess.
Massive.
That's why I'm like, why don't I remember this picture? Maybe I blocked it out.
But
Maybe
it was such a good, to say that, not that it was lifelike picture, because like I say, it was quite abstract, but I could see the resemblance straight away.
Yeah, I think it would have been because during that time, obviously, like doing my A levels and then foundation, it was all like Lucian Freud and looking at like abstract, not sort of expressionist sort of portraiture and figurative figuration and stuff like that. So I was in that sort of blocky, sort of little moment.
Nice.
Figuring out what my paintings were going to look like and all that sort of stuff.
Yeah, just developing,
Yeah.
So talking of developing, I just want to get into initially you growing up and us playing together and, just being out and about as kids. And then me always just remembering you drawing at the time, it was like, you probably cringe at that, but it was like South Park.
Yeah.
And The Simpsons.
Definitely.
And even back then we could see that you, amongst our group of friends, you were the one that could do a picture better than the average kid, if you know what I mean.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. You might not know that as a credit for growing up, but I was like, yo, he's got a knack for drawing these characters.
Well, I remember I remember the first memory of me and you and art is being in your room and us making pictures of remember Eclipse Clothing and Spliffy.
Yeah.
And it was probably and we were drawing pictures
Eclipse.
of those cartoons with spliffs and stuff. We were probably 8 or 10 or something.
Yeah.
And then I think both of our mums were like, what's
going on?
You're a bit young for me. Stop the spliffs.
Yeah. Don't be on that kind of thing.
Yeah, but I mean, because obviously we were having a bit of a chat before this, weren't we, as well? So it was we were talking a little bit, about just following, my dad sort of being, and my mum as well, sort of both of them just sort of just having an artistic kind of environment in which to be around at that age.
Yeah. I feel like for me as well, was it just a natural thing? So we were doing them characters, drawing them, then you kind of carried that on. But for me, was it obviously we were talking off camera before, were you getting more into it because of your dad's influence we knew that he had a talent, he'd expressed that to you and shown you little glimpses of what he'd done?
That's a really good question. I think that I was be a bit sort of, hopefully not too cliche about it, but I think kids in general are really, really, really generally quite enjoy making art, right? And it's just, it's just sort of how supportive is it for them to carry on doing it rather than like, you know, rather than it being like, I think kids stop making art often like too early maybe, or I don't know, like I just feel like it's natural to make art. That's
Nice.
kind of my point. That's
Yeah,
kind
I
of what I'm
got
saying.
you.
It's natural to make art. Like it did
So you
start
had
that
a
way for me. That
natural
would be my sort
creative-
of, you know, that's my sort of like,
Yeah.
you know, Picasso said something like all kids are artists until, you know, something, I can't forget the quote, you know, it's like, yeah, I think it's the things that when you stop making art that I'm more sort of like suspicious about.
Yeah,
Yeah.
the things that get in the way of that
Yeah.
creativity. Okay.
Not that
Okay,
everyone
so
needs
yeah,
to-
you had that innate thing. And then obviously you finished school and you were doing art at Gateway. So yeah, so just to say, okay, you've passed that stage of being a kid. What made you pursue it, continue to pursue it? Because I didn't do art, for example.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I think like also again something we touched on a little bit before we started rolling, but it was like yeah, it was just this sort of it was definitely like open expectations from my parents. Like it was my mum always raised me as to like, you know, follow whatever your passion is and like life's short, just, you know, do what you want. And so that's all, you know, that was really helpful because yeah, as you say, like as I was getting to Gateway and sixth form college and things like that, it did start to feel like, you know, this is definitely my main interest and my,
Yeah.
you know, something that is becoming like a really necessary thing to do. Like, yeah, because I wasn't necessarily good. I don't think I was like, you're touching on some really sort of like almost, you know, philosophical kind of concepts of like what comes first, chicken or the egg kind of thing. You know, like what is it, you know, I'm a bit suspicious to say that I had some kind of natural gift or anything like that. I think
It's
you
in
know,
us all kind of thing.
Talent is talent's a skill, like a learned skill, I feel like. Not all, you know, I don't have the answer to it, but you know, there's some pushback necessary, I think, to just be like, yeah, like you spend a long time at something and make something happen.
I like that because in nowadays a lot of it is like we see the finished product of what you can produce, but we don't recognize that journey of like you saying they're not practice and pursuing it almost creates the talent as such.
Of course.
Yeah, and then the kind of level of craft or whatever you want to say,
Yeah.
the level that you get to. So yeah, I understand what you're saying there. And how did you find that? I don't know if you call it a system because I didn't do that, but yeah, going into art within college and university, like how was that experience?
Challenging.
Yeah.
Challenging. Like in a positive way, mostly. So I obviously at A level and stuff. Yeah, that was it was all quite challenging. You know, like you said, like going back to like the playground and stuff and doing like little, I don't know, there'd be just sort of like, yeah, like there'd even be these like mini, I guess I've got some kind of competitiveness as well. So it's sort of like, I remember as far back as like at school, just some kids just being like challenging me to draw something and somebody else draw something. And it was like a little schoolyard competition, and stuff, which is like, you know, I was saying, so there's always, so going into sixth form and stuff like that, where obviously then like, I don't know, there's a lot more at stake, I guess. It feels like, and it really hit me, I think, when I moved to Norwich. It's just moving out of home, and the challenge is external. As I think the art itself is obviously like the thing that you protect and the thing that's like almost like meditation or whatever, and it's like a peaceful place to be.
Yeah, that's your safe place.
Yeah, but it's everything around it that's challenging. You know,
living on your own and being
exactly.
independent.
Moving out for the first time. So it could be any subject, you know, but it's just sort of maintaining your peace to be able to do what you want to do in any given situation. I think that's the hard part.
Yeah, nice. And would I be right in saying though? I know we're not saying that things necessarily follow that line of, you know, a parent does it or encourages it, and then I go on to do it. But like, were you the opposite in the fact that you were the first to go uni for art?
Yeah.
That you knew of within your family.
Yeah. Sorry, what was it? Yeah.
So was you the first? You know how you said like some people say it's talent.
Oh yeah,
I'm
was
saying
the first.
you didn't follow. You went.
Yeah.
You were like at the frontier of, of your family's.
Yeah, my mum and dad didn't go to university. So I was, so that was, it was, you know, it didn't feel like a big deal, but it was, because obviously, you know, times changed a little bit, don't they? I think a lot of our generation was like the first, I guess, to go.
Yeah.
Obviously, like loads of people have got to university for a long time, but just, because it's probably a bit more social mobility around those years as well. I think.
Definitely. The opportunity had just started as we were going through the school system, I feel, to make it accessible, So that says a lot for us growing up. I mean, for us, we were both single parent families and inner city kids. And like I say, for my family as well, for my mum and dad, they didn't go uni, and that's not a coincidence. That's like you say, of that time, then coming into our time, and you making the most of the opportunity and going on to finish that. So, you know, I want to say it for people that are maybe getting into art and doing their own thing of like, you're going through art. What is it that's hard about it? Like, are you trying to find yourself as an artist, or are you just trying to pass the course? Or because it's different to me, the creative.
What's hard about art school? Like, is that the question?
Yeah.
What's hard about art? Okay, well, there's a lack of. It's self-directed, which is like, I guess you could look at that like as being, well, that sounds like a dream, like, you know, that's, you do what you want. You, like, basically do what you want.
But with that, with that though. Yeah.
But then it's a bit I just, you know, I'm just, for lack of a better word, it's a somewhat existential nature of that once you're faced with doing whatever you want, all of a sudden
you need some.
You really want structure.
I like that.
I do what I want. I have no idea what I want to do.
I wanted to.
So
that was hard.
So then it's finding meaning on your own. Finding whatever, meaning, I guess, is like the best, you know, the most accurate word. Like finding some kind of meaning through, creative expression, and then that's then it becomes a bit real in that way. Like a real was like, you know, it's art school, isn't it? But like, you know, the stakes are what, you know, whatever, relative, aren't they? So
nice.
Like, and it feels real, you know. It's very, you know, it lives up to all those sort of things. Like, oh my God, like, you know, what am I gonna do?
Yeah, and I was gonna go. Obviously, you then got your masters and that after Norwich, and then the Royal College of Arts in London. I guess it's the same again then when you've graduated and stuff. That you're thrust into the world of now again more freedom. There's no deadlines, there's no course, there's no time scale.
Yeah, well, actually, I don't know. It depends sort of what happens for everyone's different after art school. But for my experience, it was like very fortunate. Like got some commercial sort of success coming out of my master's degree. Like Saatchi had bought one of my pieces while I was there, and I mean, he's not, you know, at the time it was sort of quite there's just, you don't know where these like little stepping stones are going to come, but you know, when they do, it's, you know, they come and you don't know where they're going to come from, but you know.
And how did that come about?
Well, you know,
I'm not involved in art, so how does that even come about?
So, because, you know, being at the Royal College of Art was the main sort of like, that's the helping hand, that's the stepping stone in itself, right? Like, so it took me 3 years to get in there, but I knew, having visited it, like, and seen like what artists were doing there, and I thought, you know, this is where I need to be to like push myself to the next level.
Yeah, nice.
To like carry on. Just basically, the whole goal of everything is just to like carry on making art. You know, like
Yeah.
what can I do to carry on making art? That's
Yeah.
basically my life's goal.
Wow,
you know?
I like that. You summed that up in just one sentence. What can I do to carry on making art? Okay.
So, but then at the Royal College of Art, I mean, I was there 2011 to 13,
Yeah.
and it was a good time. It was like relatively small class, like amount of peers there, and so you'd have a lot of visitors that would come.
Yeah.
And you do these shows there you'd have like a show halfway through in your graduate show, but a lot of people would come to see them. Like Saatchi like came and bought a couple of pieces.
Yeah, amazing.
But then another collector hears that's happened, and then they want something because someone else, you know,
yeah.
which is where the bullshit starts to
Ah,
take. But
the who's who of who's buying.
yeah, I
stuff.
just mean yeah. So, but you know, like I say, like that was just like one of the things that was
Yeah.
like. I just look back and think,
Wow.
well, that led on to this led on to that led on to the. You know.
Yeah. I know when you say the bullshit there, it's interesting because I just thought of this now, yeah. People who buy art don't necessarily do art, yeah. So it's like a backwards thing of like people who have money can buy art, but their way they pick it is just down to them, isn't it? It's very
Yeah.
subjective, yeah. But someone who is an expert or has lived it and come out of arts college or uni can't afford the art necessarily.
No.
So it should be them that is buying the art to show
Yeah.
which is great as in a way.
Yeah, the people.
But
that
they
kind of-
can't. They have to create it for people to buy and then be
Yeah.
at the mercy of the
Yeah,
market or whatever
Yeah.
you want to say.
yeah, totally. Yeah.
So you was finding your way in that. So it worked for you in a good way.
So yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, it was a long way to. I've not quite. So the answer, yeah, to your question was actually I feel like the safest place is at uni. Like that's where
Yeah.
there's no commercial pressure on what you do. Like there is actually like it's not entirely true, but there's relatively no commercial pressure. But then graduating and then say you start to whatever, then like you start your day, your life is like maintaining a career as an
Yeah,
artist. Then
yeah.
there's other pressures that are not, they're not just academic, because academic pressure in art school, and that's sort of healthy pressure.
Yeah, because it's pushing you forward, yeah?
Yeah.
It's
Yeah,
giving you a target.
and the
or
questions
whatever.
are just like sort of, they're more sort of, they're based on like concepts and
Yeah, get you to think about what you're making and how
Yeah.
you're creating it and stuff, I
and
guess.
it's a complete luxury,
Yeah, to have that.
It's
Yeah.
like what more could you ask for?
Yeah. So yeah, again then, so you've come out of the uni and you're getting some pieces brought, and then you go into that commercial world of art. How is it, just going back to yourself, what were the inspirations that got you to where you are, like your style? I mean, we're sitting on your sofa.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's a few pieces in the background.
Yeah.
People might recognize.
Let me just grab some water.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, sorry.
No, you're right.
Yeah, because so I guess it's the not to like give you too long of an answer about it, but like just my experience from growing up. Obviously, like we were saying, like our background, growing up like in Leicester in the city. Leicester being the furthest place away from a beach in any city in the country.
Yeah.
And so
Yeah,
there's
most
a
central.
distinct lack of, sort of a distinct lack of nature, like in terms of, a mid-sized post-industrial sort of city.
Yeah. The best we had was the canal, which
Yeah.
was full of rubbish, and the park, basically. Yeah. Foss Park, Abbey Park.
Yeah, I mean, like I don't mean to sound like I'm shitting on Leicester. I love growing up in Leicester.
Yeah, yeah.
I don't know about you. I thought it was
Yeah, it was awesome.
yeah
Nice mix of people and everything.
Yeah, and it is surrounded by actually the countryside's got a lot to say for itself.
Yeah, yeah. But when you're a kid, you don't go outside of a certain radius unless your parents take you, or unless
Yeah.
you know what I mean.
But I guess what I'm trying to, because obviously my work now is all about, it's like, you know, my subject matter is like nature, trees, mountains, rivers, whatever.
Yeah, amazing. Yeah.
So I think there was, so I think a lot of it comes from, being a little bit obsessed by that, like growing up, and like you say, like my mum and dad, like they both sort of, to one extent, of like my dad obviously used to like paint fantasy landscapes and things, dragons and
Yeah, I remember the dragons.
yeah. So I was always kind of intrigued by it.
Yeah.
And I don't know, it's just sort of grown over time. Like, you know, from when we were making stuff as young kids, just going through, like working through different subject matters, like figures, just all sorts of like random things that you can paint, cartoons. I mean, we like music, or like just zooming out a little bit, like animation, things like that we've sort of, you take a little bit of a little bit of an interest in here and there. Growing up, and even when we're older, you know, like just sort of being like, do you know what? I'm just gonna find a bit of time to like just scratch the surface on this sort of this world that people have, you know,
created.
And then so anyway, it just, I don't know, at this moment where I'm at, it's obviously the last decade, I guess, it's really sort of become about mountains and palm trees and like exotic and all sorts of different types of landscapes and things. It's just, I don't know, it's just where my head is. I just trees are I've just, you know, they've got a lot of potential for like interpreting, like they've got no like structural sort of expectations, you know, like if you draw a person, for example, like you expect to see the certain historical rules,
things,
whereas obviously in nature, like there's a bit more license to sort of be like, how do you know that doesn't exist, you know?
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, that's true.
Because there's nothing more surreal than nature itself. So.
Yeah, and I like the fact that you take inspiration from nature, but are also aware that it's kind of formless, because again, even this, you're capturing a snapshot of a scene in your imaginary world, but it's like, if you take it into another form of video and it had to be animated or whatever, then it would have to be moving and flowing, and there'd be more than just the scene as such. That kind of takes me to, how does it develop? How does your style develop? Like,
so it started off. I think there's some slight, like, you know, there's obviously it's quite neurotic in a way, for like the way to sort of like spend a lot of time sort of just digging away and like, you know, trying to perfect something. It became, you know, it was about like this sort of whole world that I sort of started to paint for a while. It's been somewhere between craft and like high art, fine art, you know, sort of. So I think that does come back to our background of like growing up working class and what art we were surrounded by, which was like, could be quite traditional sort of like pictures on, you know, your family's wall or whatever, like, you know, a really quaint sort of river scene on your grandma's wall, you know. So that sort of translated when I was in Norwich, and I was sort of figuring out what I wanted to paint, and it was these really techie sort of photorealistic, trying to make these landscapes, and I was just sort of, it was just really a struggle to like try and make these pictures work. And then so I we had a little shed in my back garden in Norwich, and I set up a little studio in there, and I started to think back to like Bob Ross, and like we used to watch him a little bit growing up on the Discovery Channel and stuff. And I was like, it's so nice to see like a landscape just put together so quickly, and And there's something about those landscapes where they're sort of they could be anywhere, you know, like obviously they're mainly like, it's like a middle American sort of image, but there's a version of that picture in every, I feel like, you know, it might be a bit of a stretch, but you could imagine that anywhere. It could be at a Russian landscape on a Russian grandma's wall, could be, you know,
not?
could be anywhere, China, anywhere in the world. Like, so I just started to get a little bit interested in that sort of democratization of like the image, how it sort of starts to become like a language, in that way, like where it's like a communication tool of communication, and like the how economic he made it. So I was just sort of basically just sort of started to paint along to those videos. Bob Ross, like Joy of Painting.
Nice.
In my shed, and I was like, this feels great. It's, you know, it's not that, it sort of takes a little time to get the hang of it and stuff, and then it starts to really like, it's really like rewarding.
Yeah, because you're getting an image,
Yeah, in like half an hour.
Yeah, nice.
And then so, and then I started to really like feel like, how could I weave this into my practice? Like, so, that was the start of like the larger body of work.
Yeah, nice. And just describe how it is now, because like myself, like I want to go over some of the hurdles and challenges, because throughout that time I feel, much like you spoke about uni being hard because it's actually everything around it, living independently, finding your way, maybe finances, then I'm doing art school on top of that. Then in life now, you're an artist, but as recently, like with myself, you're a dad. You know, you've got a partner as well, so you become a family. You have your extended family as well. How do you negotiate that with being an artist and day-to-day life?
There's it makes life more busy, doesn't it? Like, so
has that affected your art though? Even say becoming a dad and having a partner, like now you have to.
I mean, my daughter River's being, obviously she's like three next week. So so it's been, I think like anything with being a sort of a relatively new dad, it's like, how do you like find the time to do everything? And I don't have the answer. I don't know. Like it's just juggling. Sort of and just carving out a bit, trying to carve out certain just sort of trying to cut away some of the bits of my day that might have seemed a bit like, you know, like just a bit wasteful or whatever. And trying to sort of make the most out of that time.
Maybe scheduling stuff a little bit as well.
Yeah, exactly.
I find that
meeting up with friends and stuff becomes a lot. You know, it's sort of like as my partner Louise was sort of saying. You know, it's kind of like as a parent, you just sort of like, I can do this and this, and it's like it's a lot more cutthroat, you know, meeting up with people.
Nice. And on the flip side, for me, looking back from where we've come from, I just think, I know you're not going to take this in the way that you probably can, but I'm amazed for you to be a dad and be doing this for when she looks back in time, you know, when she's older, and be like, wow, dad's an artist. And even I've seen some of her work in the studio, for her to come here and get some of that, like I said, whether she wants to do that in the future or not, is still inspiring,
totally. I feel really, you know, I feel very fortunate to do what I do. Obviously, like it's, it's to be able to come here every day and just make artwork is a dream, you know. So, I'm happy that I'm able to, like, present that sort of possibility, you know, that sort of. To my daughter, because
wicked,
you know, we again, like something we've sort of touched upon, but like, I want her, you know, like I want my kid to feel like whatever they want to follow, that's like that's something that they're able to do.
They can aspire to do it. Nice. As well, because before we was rolling, like you said, you showed me around the other studios here. So as well as the challenges, I wanted to say, what is it like? You know, you're based here in London. What is it like within this art community? And you know, you've got this setup and the wider setup of the.
Yeah, it's a great. So I mean, we're in southeast London in South Bermondsey, near Old Kent Road, and it's a very quickly changing area. Like if you see outside the window, it's just a lot of like new high rises going up.
Yeah.
But you know, that's sort of the nature of having an art studio in London. There's a certain ephemeral nature to it. Like unless you obviously buy it, but that's relatively rare because you know, so everything's it's quite expensive. So it's exciting. Like it's fun to be around. Like where we are right now, it's a little pocket of a little community of like lots of studios behind closed doors all around the area. So that's mixed in with like art venues, music venues. So there's very much like a grassroots element to like this sort of where we are.
Yeah.
So that's fun, you know, you get to know people that are doing all different things in, you know, like I say, whether that be music or art.
Yeah.
You know, there's picture framers, there's everyone. It's all just people with a space like this, setting up a bit of creative, business and like, or you know, just doing what they're passionately trying to follow what they want to do.
Yeah.
So it's great.
Nice.
Yeah.
So, what has been the biggest kind of support or help within this? Like, what do you take from that? I can see that you like the fact that there's so much creativity and kind of almost networking going on with collaborators and stuff. But what's been the biggest help for you? Just seeing people do what they do?
Yeah. It's you know, you start to make friends with everyone in there. Like there's an art gallery as well on this road, so that's, you know, it's just nice to be like, I can just go outside, go see a show, talk to the gallerists, you know, and just know that that's there, and it's like it feels like it's it feels like, well, you know, I'm thinking about a show, or I'm thinking about like certain avenues I want to take with something. Like it's just nice to be like, well, all the people in this food chain of all the things that we do, they're
all around, yeah. Nice. I know this is probably hard because I feel like, I don't know what you would say yourself, again, because I'm not in that world, but I think of, say, sports, yeah. For you, I feel like you're at the team you want to be at, and you're banging in some goals.
Yeah.
But like, where do you see your next kind of phase? What is it now? What is it like?
Like my next sort of
development or whatever.
Yeah. Well, it's I think because like we were sort of touching on a little bit before, like like going on a bit of a journey to get to this sort of, you know, body of work. There's been all sorts of like half projects, half ideas, like sometimes actually years of like, you know, a different other kind of projects, and then it's it's a little bit like looking forward and thinking about like where those new ideas come from. And I mean, with painting, it's a little bit, you know, I like to just make it and let it just like go where it needs to go.
Yeah, nice.
But then there's also be like, well, you know, looking back on the things that I've done in the past and thinking like, you know, thinking like, how does that fit into what I'm doing now? And for example, like figurative paintings that I made 12 years ago or something, I look back at those and think like, those characters, those people that I sort of was I was like imagining, like where are they now? Thinking about
they're
those.
still within, you know what I mean? They're still there, in a way.
So like revisiting certain things at the same time.
I like that, how you're free flowing. Just describe, because we spoke about this as well earlier, we spoke about a lot earlier. your process for coming up with a picture, like I was seeing the piece here. Just describe that for me again, how you said that, because you said in your mind, yeah?
Yeah, because we were looking at some of these canvases that are very much like early stage. And then I guess we were just sort of saying that like the finished like image that you see on a canvas might have like anything from 10 layers below it, you know, because it's so, because I remember your question to me was like, how do you, sort of like how do you like come up with the idea, I think. And I was basically was saying it's not always an idea.
Yeah.
It might just need to happen first. Like just physically putting something, picking up a brush and putting something on the canvas.
Yes.
And then there might be something that clicks at some point, like just like stabbing in the dark, you know, just keep putting things on.
Yeah.
And 9 out of the 10 things that you put on are like embarrassing. And then one thing is like, there's something, there's that one bit there, yeah. And then the way I work is I do some works on paper as well as works on canvas, maybe take it to the computer a little bit and just sort of have these plates spinning.
Yeah.
And like just, you know, taking that bit and reinserting it into on something else, a different page, or until something clicks, and then and then they build like that. That's how I sort of build pictures.
It seems so fluid, and it must be a little bit scary because you're trying to, I imagine, get a piece out sometimes, and you're like, well, it's not just going to come out.
No,
like,
I know.
Like today or whenever I need it.
Yeah,
exactly. Yeah. Is that something you contend with as well? You've got a show coming up, say, you know you need so many pieces or to cover a certain space.
Totally.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How do you get around that?
It's just squaring a circle, really, I guess you could say, you know, there is a healthiness in a deadline because it does force you to sort of, you know, sometimes it's like things will click if you force them to. So if you don't have a deadline, I can sort of, I'll be doing, you know, I'll be trying to make something, but the urgency might, you know, that sometimes that just pushes things where they need to go a little bit. I think I'm somewhere in between as an artist. So I know some artists I know that will say they're both at each end of the spectrum, you know. Some artists will be like, I need a deadline because I need it to sort of like do what I want to do. They need that sort of push. And then other artists, it will be like, there's nothing worse for me than a deadline because it's like you say, it's like, it starts to sort of limit your time in which you don't know what the painting, you don't know when it's going to come to be. So, but yeah, I mean, I'm somewhere in between really. It's just sort of like,
if you have to crack on, you'll crack on, and
but also I do need. Sometimes you need time
develop. That's fair enough.
Yeah.
And what you said there, it really resonates with something I was watching the other day, which I have no real interest in necessarily, but it was writing. And someone said that for writing, and they even heard that Stephen King said, just write. Don't have to have the character, the idea, the story, just write. And in that process of doing that, which I think is what you do when you're developing your layers on your pictures, is like you're just doing. And then whatever comes of that will come. Even same with the deadline. When I relate it again, just to say, I'm just using sports because I follow that more of like, think of the great goals that we've seen in the game of football. They're under a time scale. Do you get me? Like if they were just jogging around on the training field, there's no impetus to go and do that thing.
Yeah, that's true.
But when there's 10 minutes left at the end of the World Cup final or the Champions League, and you've got to get it done, and it just unfolds. And you think, and this is why I laugh at coaches on the side, because I'm like, you did not practice that in training. They just come out with some mad wizardry, you know, went on this mad run and scored this mad volley.
Totally.
That weren't practice. That just come out of nowhere. You know what I mean? So I think sometimes the coach, I don't know if they deserve all the credit, man. The player just did his thing that time. He got you out of a bad situation or whatever, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
By getting you the goal, yeah.
Yeah, that's a nice comparison. That's
Yeah.
because sometimes the best goals, I guess, they do end towards the end of a match or something when they just really need it as well.
Yeah, that pressure. So maybe that's the thing with them players. Some work better in a system and some work better when everything's on the line and it's just free flowing,
Yeah.
you know, with a mistake or a counter attack.
Totally.
Just going back onto that work-life balance as well, if you can touch on so obviously sometimes, say, you know, you're in between shows and not much is going on or you don't know what is going on next. I know you spoke to me and said that you was getting into some of the teaching. So what was it like the student becoming the teacher?
Yeah, great.
Putting yourself in them shoes, yeah?
Yeah, brilliant. It was a lot of fun. I mean, it is a lot of fun. Yeah, so I currently teach like 1 day a week. Well, it's quite natural in a way, you know, like, I think it's helped going through like art college and stuff because you do sort of do you get a bit of experience, like you do a bit of teaching, like through when you're there anyway, like you go off to like uni and do, like other unis and do like talks and lectures and stuff like that.
Okay. Oh, I didn't know that.
A little bit, not much.
Yeah.
Just like, you know, a few times.
Yeah.
But also, yeah, I don't know, because when I'm, say like you were saying, like in this area, like I have a few friends in the area that are artists and stuff, you know, I'll go to their studios and they'll ask, you know, or when they come to mine and stuff, a lot of the conversation is like, what's your advice or what's your, you know, especially if it's like a close friend, you can just be like, this is, you know, this is on where does this fall on the scale of like, you know, of their work and stuff. Or like, you know, I don't know, not that brutal obviously, but like, anyway, it's talking to another artist about their work is like, it's fun.
Yeah, nice.
Yeah.
Because you're both delving into your passions, you both have your own angle and stuff like that, yeah?
Yeah.
Nice. Does it bring anything to you teaching in terms of for yourself?
Yeah, definitely. Like, you know, the students that I work with, they'll be looking at other artists. So I'll be, it's inspiring because, you know, you're looking at their art, but you're also looking at loads of other artists at the same time that they're working with.
So you feed off that kind of energy of them delving into it as well and really...
and understanding how they're interpreting,
you
know, someone else's art. So it's just a whole rabbit, you know, run of creativity. It's just kind of nice. I mean, I'm not sure, like it might not be direct, but it's definitely gives you it's like, because we've got a little project space in this building as well, so we put on some shows sometimes of other artists' work, but it's just removing yourself from just directly like making art to then being like, well, I'm putting on an exhibition of another artist's work, and then it just gives you a bit, it can just give you a break from yourself for a second from like what you might, you know, just stepping out of like certain routines and certain sort of habits. And, might not be direct, but it might just give you a little feeling of like it might just open something up that you hadn't really thought about.
Nice. And I think, again, looking from my angle to you, I'm like, for them people to have an actual artist teaching them, to me, is that level of like, you know, say you're at school and one of the local players for the team comes and takes his time to coach you, even if he's just teaching you the basics of a certain control or touch. It's like, even if you're just observing them, the energy that gives them to want to do it, because you inspire them, do you know what I mean? I think that's a wonderful thing, and you going back to that grassroots of like, you know, people who are just starting out. So with that, and I know this is hard, you might have a cliche answer, which is valid. What advice do you have? Because I'm thinking of artists that are watching this and inspiring, maybe they're at secondary school or something, and they're weighing up their options, you know. Do they go the more traditional of a maths or English type degree, or do they just go for it with the creative kind of stuff of, you know, go into arts? What would you say? What kind of advice would you say?
for someone that's like thinking about doing
Yeah.
art. Well, yeah, I would encourage people I encourage people to think, think carefully about what they actually want to do. Obviously, about anything. But if they do want to follow a degree in art, then I think it's just dive as deep head first and as fast and strong and just
Nice.
as hard and just embrace, because just do it with everything you've got.
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah, nice. And going back to yourself there, if you don't mind me saying that, it was the fact that you were saying to me that your dad wasn't necessarily encouraging because he didn't maybe understand what you were aiming for there, but he was discouraging more of like going to the College of Arts just because he didn't really see the value in what you were getting for your money or the sacrifice of, the tuitions. So therefore you actually, not saying you went against his wishes as such, you just went for it, like you just described that, to say you went head first into it and just committed.
Yeah.
Basically.
Yeah, and also like you were saying as well, it's like, I don't know, like, coming from like quite a working class background. It was, there's, it doesn't matter anyway, like you can switch and do something after and,
Give it a shot at least.
And I don't know, because I'm a bit, I don't want to say like, oh, don't think about it like because when I was doing my bachelor's, my art at art school, there was a teacher that was like, don't try not to think about it like try not to worry about it as a career or anything afterwards. Like really just appreciate that you're interested enough to spend 3 years learning about art.
Yeah.
And they were like, try not to treat it like a way into a career.
Okay.
Which I totally appreciate.
Yeah, so do the thing for the thing, and then if that comes, it comes as such.
I just wonder now, I mean, it wasn't inexpensive when we, because you went to uni that time, didn't you?
I did, I did the separate thing of going to college twice, basically, but I did my A-levels, and then I went to college again and got my sports and stuff.
Yeah.
And that had nothing to do with what career I did after.
Yeah,
in a way, I still enjoyed doing that. Like you said, you could have done the arts and then not had a career in the arts necessarily.
But I guess what what I was sort of getting at was that, like, what was it, like $3,000 a year or something?
Yeah, roughly that, yeah.
It's not insignificant, it's not, but it didn't feel necessarily maybe like it, it's not the kind of financial commitment perhaps that it is now.
Yeah.
I'm not. I don't say that to sound discouraging or anything like that. I just wonder if it's
I see it as way up for your situation there, isn't it? What that means to you, and no thingy to anyone. If you have the support there and your family just supports you with that financially, especially, then there's less of a burden there, or there's less of a debt, or whatever you want to say. Yeah. Whereas coming from ours, like you say, it's gone up the tuition. What lessons from art can you apply to life?
Wait, what lessons?
Yeah.
From art. Okay.
What has it taught you?
Say I'm in the studio for 10 hours one day, and there is a sense of like reaching a sort of almost like meditative state, like not always, but when I'm
lucky. They call it the flow state,
right,
as a term.
That's like if I've had a good day painting and like things have gone the way that I would have liked them to, it sort of helps me to like function better as a human being.
Nice. Nice.
that's art has taught me to slow down and sort of shut down some of the noise that might be around in one's head like throughout the day.
Yeah.
So yeah, art has taught me to like appreciate that, and whether that's painting or even whether that's even doesn't have to be art, I guess, but like finding something like that to remedy like the noise of life. Is something that it's taught me to, so that's something that I, my partner Louise, she's a yoga teacher, and she has a lot of the same gets the same sort of thing out of that, so it's taught me to sort of just
quiet
stop
the mind a bit.
Just like,
nice. So you kind of answered that question now. I was going to say, what do you get from doing art? What do you get? Maybe more so, rather than that state, what you got in, what do you get from it in the end, though, ultimately? Like, you've done your piece, you've done your exhibit, like, what do you get from it? And that could be, just to make it a bit easier, maybe, like, because people obviously buy your pieces, so they get something from it, but you've made it. So what do you get from art?
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean, yourself?
I guess I get to feel like I've sort of tried to decipher something in life that day, that I've tried to represent my experience or represent like my, whatever it is, my demons or my, shake something off, like get something off my chest or, like there's, that's it really. Just sort of feel like I'm, doing what, it feels really, it makes me feel more human at the end of the day, like just like something that like, I don't know, like, like you say, like it's tempting to like be quite soppy about it, or whatever, but just sort of, just thinking like, this is something that we do as humans. We do have a natural tendency to like describe our experiences. So it's this is not directly to that question, but like, art is a form of communication in that way. It's separate from, it's separate but equal to like talking or music or anything like that. Like it's just its own way of me showing you what I'm thinking. And rather than saying it.
Wow. That's amazing. That's really good. What I would say as well, because I get excited coming in your studio and just seeing that, is that you kind of almost, for people I feel that buy your stuff as well, you're feeding off of that creativity, that effort that you've put in, and you could call it, for want of a better phrase, that mastery, as in like all art is a mastery of a different almost thing. So like, you're drawing stuff, but totally different to someone else drawing in, say, charcoal, or someone doing like something on a wall. Do you know what I mean? Like, everything is so different, or something out of clay. It's so different how you're expressing it. So I like entering this studio, entering your world and your mind a bit. And also to say, we spoke about AI earlier, and I think you were as right in saying, like, I'm not sure how AI will replace an artist, because it's their experience. For want of a better phrase, their human experience. So how can an AI ever replicate coming from that place? Because it's imperfect in a way. It's just natural, isn't it? Totally. How your pictures unfold. Totally. So with that, looking forward for art itself, how do you feel, that art is going to contend with that whole kind of sphere of technology? And
I don't know, because obviously I make as far as like an artistic practice, it could be all sorts of, there could be all sorts of technology involved, but like literally just, using oil paints and canvas and these techniques and these materials,
Uh-huh.
they haven't changed since the millennia,
Wow.
have they? Right.
Wow, yeah.
There's linseed oil, mixing that with pigment that's been ground down from rocks. You know, that's what my, I don't know, that's never changed, right? So, you know, there's all sorts of interesting art that is not about that, you know, or it's about like how new technology is, what interesting things that can do.
Yeah.
But I
Maybe
don't know.
it's in a different space, like maybe it's in a different space.
Yeah, you know, like video
AI
art and all sorts of like, yeah, exactly. Like, but sorry, but contending, yeah, I don't really, sorry, yeah, so like, I think, I guess contending with it is tough because like, it's not something that, I hope that doesn't, I don't know, it's never going to contend with it in a way, like, it's just going to be its thing. I don't know how crushed down pigments from rocks and making like paintings is going to be something that AI
can
jumps
even
on.
replicate.
What's it going to? Also, because we were saying earlier, right? So it was like this is like a sort of an argument that I don't have so much conviction about, but it's more of like a, you know, sort of just thinking about the future and stuff. Like, you know, maybe an AI, maybe there. Where's the value in an AI like piece of art without any human element to it? But then what's AI without the human element? I don't really know. I don't know what is AI without the human element.
That's true. That's true. Because we were saying there, weren't we, about the inputs. So if I have to input, just use ChatGPT as an example, I said that we were actually becoming the interface that was the problem, because if it was just free running with thousands of examples every second, then it would eventually probably get to what you were asking it to do, if you know what I mean, because there's only so many examples of the data that is collected that it can get from. So maybe we're kind of, the thing that separates art from AI is the fact that we are the input that can do it directly.
I think, I guess that would be my, I'd say that would be my hypothesis. I don't spend too much time thinking about it, to be honest. Like, I don't, it doesn't interest me so. Like, I'm not like, I know it probably should, and it's like, it's obviously like a whole thing, but the way humans use AI and the way we've made it, I thought, I don't know, it's just, it reminds me, you know, it's a bit like that film WALL-E. Do you remember WALL-E?
Yes.
Where they sort of end up basically destroying the planet, and then I think what was really beautiful about that film, it was like, you know, it just was a nice critique of like making like a society that's on the surface of it is making life easier until it becomes until like there's nothing left to like problematize. You are, you know, but also they do end up destroying the planet, don't they? And then their last scene is like they're floating around in space. And they've got they're just like in these seats watching like a screen with like a milkshake that's just got all their entire daily food in there. And it was just,
it's not a great existence.
I guess so like making things easier like AI does is obviously not necessarily a good thing. I think as humans, like, I don't know if that's the problem. The problem we have is not making those sort of tasks easier.
Okay, so I'm just kind of wrapping it up, because it's hard with art. You can talk about so many different angles. I could talk all day to you, but I'm aware of the time. Last couple of questions, like, what is something that you're most proud about in your career as well as an artist? What was a moment or a piece?
As an artist, well, there's a lot. Like, I'm really happy with like what I do and all the experiences that it's afforded me. You know, like coming from where we've come from and just like being able to like live a certain, you know, like be able to come here and make art every day.
Yeah.
Is just like an absolute gift. So, what am I most proud of? Yeah, well, zooming out then, I guess, I don't know, like you were saying, maybe sort of having River, my daughter, and like being able to like
show her that.
yeah, be there as a dad, which, you know, as an artist, and maybe, you know, pave whatever path she wants to do with her life.
Yeah.
So that's a bit removed from being an artist, but yeah. I think just making like it's just making. I've probably made like 50. I don't know, like whatever number of pieces I've made that I've really, you know, that I've really been like, oh wow, like that's just clicked, and that's like what I was hoping to do with it.
And I'm thinking from your answers there that there might not be one. Like, again, I'm saying it's art. Like, I feel it's quite fluid. Like, there might not just be a peak that you ascend to. Like, it's just like the journey.
Yeah.
And you know, if I speak to you in another 20, 30 years' time, you'll be like, you could have done a U-turn and gone back to them figures or whatever, and you could have, you know, been like, oh, okay, this is my time. Because that's what you can have as an artist, It can be like in any decade of your life.
Totally.
That things just,
100%.
you know, change course or whatever,
Yeah, exactly. And I wanted to refrain from being like, I didn't want it to sound like to any specific event or like certain external thing that happened, because obviously like that's lots of nice things that happen, like
just
traveling,
buying
like
your
traveling,
piece even.
being able to travel lots and meeting interesting people that you wouldn't otherwise meet. But again, I guess I'm just in a sort of a romantic kind of mood. But it's like there's no better feeling. It's like, you know, when a piece just clicks and it's just you and you're in your studio and you've managed to like realize something. There's no better feeling.
Wow, nice. I think you just described the goal for the striker, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, it's that moment, isn't it? It all comes together. Oh, nice. Oh, it's been brilliant talking to you, Neil,
thanks for coming. It's been really a pleasure.
And thanks for showing us around the studio.
Of course.
And I'll put up some of your links if you're interested in some of Neil's work and what he does and just seeing a bit about him. Then he's got his own social media pages. And that's all we've got time for now on The Human Experience.
Thanks.
Thanks for your time, man.
Pleasure. Appreciate it. Be there as a dad. Which, you know, as an artist, and maybe, you know, pave whatever path she wants to do with her life.
Yeah.